Israeli airstrikes killed at least 12 people, including 3 senior Islamic Jihad commanders in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military announced that it had carried out strikes against what they claim are Palestinian Islamic Jihad targets in the area. The health ministry of Hamas-controlled area released the information about the attack early morning. Senior Islamic Jihad commander Jihad Ghanan and his wife are believed to have been killed in the latest airstrike. Explosions targeting residential apartments were also heard in the middle of the night in different parts of Gaza. The ambulances arrived at the scene of a damaged building where the doctors assist the wounded residents. Now, just last week, the death of a Palestinian hunger striker in Israeli custody triggered several hours of cross-border fighting between Israel and armed groups in Gaza. The man who died at the Israeli prison and who we are talking about is Qadir Adnan, and he was a member of the Islamic Jihad group. Now let's dig in further regarding the story. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict dates back to the end of the 19th century. In 1947, the United Nations adopted Resolution 181, known as the Partition Plan, which sought to divide the British Mandate of Palestine into Arab and Jewish states. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was created, sparking the first Arab-Israeli war. The war ended with Israel's victory, but lakhs of Palestinians were displaced. The area was divided into 3 parts: the State of Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. Let's take a look at the origins of the conflict. Now, the Gaza Strip is stretched and of land located along the Mediterranean coast between Egypt and Israel. Now, Israel and the Palestinian Authority have both asserted the right to control in this area that we're talking about here. Now, remember, both Israel and Palestinians claim Jerusalem as their capital city. Now, before Israel even became a nation, the majority of people dwelling in these areas, in this region, were Arabs. And Israel declared independence in 1948, marking the first Jewish state in over 2,000 years. Soon, war broke out between Israel and 5 Arab nations. The 5 Arab nations we're talking about here are Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and Lebanon. Now, at the end of the 1948 Arab-Israeli war, Egypt was given control of the Gaza Strip. However, during the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel gained back control and seized the Gaza Strip. After Israel's 2005 pullout, Hamas won elections and took control of Gaza. Now, since 2006, Hamas has occupied the Gaza Strip. Now, that's all about the origins of the Israel war. Now, for more on this, we are now being joined by Alan Bursten from California. Alan is a visiting assistant professor at Israel Institute, fellow at Department of Political Science. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Alan.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Right, now I want to first start by asking you that we saw the airstrikes from the Israel side last night or this morning. What sort of reaction can be expected from the Islamic Jihad group at this moment?
So Israel's airstrike, according to the Israeli Defense Force, is a retaliation to 100 rockets that were fired last week by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, as you mentioned, in retaliation to the death of a senior Palestinian Islamic Jihad inmate who died after a prolonged hunger strike. So this is really a continued cycle. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad has the ability to launch hundreds of rockets simultaneously into Israel. However, it is limited by the Hamas movement, which controls the Gaza Strip. As you mentioned, Hamas does not want a full-scale war with Israel right now. So likely we will see the Palestinian Islamic Jihad launching a few rockets, probably several dozens, short range, and they're going to say, and now we've retaliated and now we're done, because Hamas will not let them escalate this further. And then it will depend on Israel's retaliation to that, how much this escalates.
Right, Mr. Allen, just to add to that, like you mentioned, that tensions have escalated after Palestinian hunger striker Qadir Adnan's death in the Israeli prison. But also help us understand that what role does Hamas play at the moment with escalating tensions between Israel and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group?
So it's a very good question. It's an extremely complicated situation because Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad both agree that Israel is their enemy and they would like to destroy it. The difference between them is that Hamas also controls the Gaza Strip, so they're also responsible for the people's welfare, for schools, for hospitals, for administration, for water, for police. So even though they agree with the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, they also have other considerations, and they would not like a full-scale war that will then destroy a lot of their infrastructure in the Gaza Strip. So very often what ends up happening is this very bizarre situation where even though Israel and Hamas officially are enemies and are constantly at war with each other, they both agree that they don't want to go to war right now. Right. So Israel will only attack Palestinian Islamic Jihad targets, and Hamas will not let the Palestinian Islamic Jihad carry out more attacks than it's willing within its agreement with Israel. So it's this very unique, complicated situation, but that's really what's developed in this conflict over the last few years, where Israel has tried to, without openly saying it, accepting that Hamas rules the Gaza Strip and trying to have this sort of back-channel negotiations. We won't attack you. You make sure that the Palestinian Islamic Jihad doesn't do too much damage, as they see it.
Right, Mr. Allen, absolutely. My last question to you before we let you go, if we can draw a link between the Israeli airstrikes and what is actually happening in Israel, the rift between the coalitions, what is your take on that?
I think that there is quite a direct link. The Israeli political system is right now in a lot of turmoil. There have been hundreds of thousands of protesters out in the streets. We've spoken about this, I think, several times. And right now, the Netanyahu's government is being threatened from within the government. The very, very right-wing Itamar Ben-Gvir, Minister of National Security, has said that he is not going to participate in government votes. He is not going to vote on the budget, which is coming up next week, things that would overthrow the government, unless Israel has a much stronger retaliation to the Gaza Strip against Palestinians because of the missiles that were launched last week. So it is, even though the official line is that Israel is retaliating to what happened last week, it cannot be disconnected from the fact that Netanyahu's government is on very shaky grounds. If Netanyahu does not show a strong display of force and make sure that the very right-wing elements within his government are made to say, it's okay, we can continue to stay in the government. So I think they're very connected.
Right, we'll have to wait and see how things unfold in Israel. But thank you so much for joining us from WION, Mr. Allen, and sharing your insights with us. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.